Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Liaquat. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Right, we are going through Mukhtasar al-Qudoori, and here, first of all, I go through the words. Now, the words over here are pretty straightforward, so we don't really need to discuss them too much. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment if you love these videos. Right, so first of all, Babu Khiyar Ayb. Ayb means a defect. Right, so a defect, a fault, a defect. إذا طلع المشتري على عيب. إذا طلع المشتري على العيب. So mushtari is the buyer. إذا طلع becomes aware of. In fact, I think this is supposed to be اطلع. Right, I think maybe that's just a little. This pen seems to be a bit too thin. Let me just make this a bit thick. I'll increase the size of it. Okay, اطلع means to become aware. على عيب في المبيع فهو الخيار إن شاء أخذه بجميع. جميع means all. الثمن means price. رد يرد, this word came before. It means to return. Okay, so return. وليس أن يمسكه. يمسك means to keep. أمسك يمسك إمساك باب إفعال. نقصان means partial. So يأخذ النقصان takes a partial refund. أوجب to make compulsory. نقصان الثمن في عادة. عادة means the norm, the practice. التجار فهو عيب. والإباق. إباق means to run away slave, to run away. Bowl is urine. فراش is bed. سرقة is theft. And عيب is defect. صغير is minor. لم يبلغ hasn't reached adulthood. Okay, adulthood. إذا بلغ فليس ذلك بعيب حتى يعا. This is supposed to be يعاوده, not يعادي. Lots of mistakes in this text. Okay, so supposed to be other way around. So it's supposed to be يعاود. عاود يعاود. بعد البلوغ والبخر. بخر and دفر. بخر is armpit smell, and dafar is breath, bad breath. Okay, so bad breath. عيب في الجارية من داء means illness. Zina is fornication. ولد zina, child out of fornication. جارية is a slave woman. غلام is a slave man. حدث عند المشتري عيب. Okay, so حدث means to occur. To occur. Now this lesson today is quite long, so I'm just thinking, shall I just do it short? حدث means to occur, to arise. عند المشتري عيب. ثم اطلع على عيب كان عند البائع فله أن يرجع. لا يرد المبيع. يرضى. رضي يرضى, it means to be content, pleased, happy. by أن يأخذه بعيبه. وإن قطع المشتري الثوب وخاطه أو صبغه أو لت يلت. Right, it means to mix. Okay, and قطع means to cut. بثمن butter. ورجع بنقصان. وليس البائع يأخذ بعينه. ومن اشترى عبدا فأعتقه أو مات عنده ثم اطلع على عيب. In fact, I think we'll do up to there. Okay, so we'll stop there and then we'll do the rest of it in next session. I don't want to rush these things too much. Okay, so next week we'll do those. Alright, so first of all, let's look at the tarkeeb of this thing. Look at the grammar side of it and see what we can make out of this. So Babu Khiyar. So هذا باب خيار العيب. Okay. إذا اطلع, this is a فعل. اطلع يطلع اطلاع. مشتري, so this is the fi'l. The مشتري is the file. على عيب is the مجرور. في البيع مبيئي is the مجرور. فهو مبتدأ, and then this is the خبر. خيار إن شاء أخذه بجميع الثمن. وإن شاء رده. رد يرد. وليس له أن يمسكه, has given it fatha over there because that's what it does. ويأخذ النقصان. So this is the مفعول به. نقصان is the مفعول به. وكل مبتدأ new sentence here كل ما أوجب نقصان الثمن أوجب يوجب إيجاب نقصان is the مفعول به في عادة التجار مضاف إليه فهو مبتدأ and عيب is the خبر عيب والإباق والبول في الفراش والسرقة عيب is the خبر of all of these في الصغير جار مجرور ما لم يبلغ فإذا بلغ فليس ذلك بعيب حتى again remember this was a little mistake يعاوده عاود يعاود from the root letters عود okay عين واو دال so يعاوده بعد المضاف بلوغ new sentence والبخر والدفر عيب خبر في الجارية وليس بعيب في الغلام إلا أن يكون من داء والزنا new sentence وولد الزنا you don't see the vowel on this okay but it's مرفوع عيب خبر في الجارية دون مضاف إليه وإذا حدث عند المشتري now you don't see the vowel on this as well okay if you know why put it in the comments below حدث عند المشتري عيب is the فاعل of حدث okay ثم اطلع على عيب كان عند البائع فله أن يرجع بنقصان العيب ولا يرد المبيع مضاف مفعول به مضاف alright مفعول به next إلا أن يرضى again you don't see the vowels on this فعل البايع is the file of يرضى أن يأخذه بعيبه وإن قطع المشتري الثوب وخاطه أو صابغه أو لت يلت السويق مفعول به بثمن ثم اطلع على عيب رجع بنقصانه وليس للبائع أن يأخذه بعينه okay right so this is today's lesson. Let's have a look at the masail that are mentioned over here. Let's look at the discussions that you have. So first of all, this is Khiyar Ayb. So let's say, for instance, there is a guy and he wants to buy, I don't know, let's say a washing machine from this lady, and this lady says the washing machine is fine, take it, and he goes, okay. And so he gives the money to her. She gives the washing machine, and this deal was done on Monday, and then on Friday, he discovers that the washing machine has a fault in there. He didn't realize, but it's got a fault. Oh no, what is he going to do now? So because the transaction is based on mubadala tul mali bil mali bit taradi, yeah, exchange of wealth for wealth, bit taradi, on both sides are content and happy. Then therefore what that basically means is that this guy over here, he has the right to having an item that is sound, that has no faults in there. That's what he deserves. And if he finds that it's not sound and he can prove that the fault was there from before Monday, right? It hasn't happened between Monday to Friday. It was there from before Monday. Then what happens is he gets the right of return. He gets a full refund. That's what Khiyar Ayb is basically all about. So إذا اطلع المشتري, when the mushtari, this guy, he becomes aware على عيب of a fault, like we said, this is the fault, في المبيع, in the product, فهو بالخيار, فهو actually this is a mistake. فهو الخيار. فهو الخيار means, you tell me in the comments, what does فهو الخيار mean? It's wrong obviously, but I just want to see. So it's actually supposed to be فهو بالخيار. Yeah, فهو, he is with choice, meaning he has choice. That's the correct version. Alhamdulillah. Okay, فهو بالخيار, then he has a choice. إن شاء أخذه, if he wants, he can take the washing machine بجميع الثمن, for the full price. So let's say he's bought it for, I don't know how much. Let's say he's bought it for £500 washing machine, expensive washing machine. he bought it for £500, then he can just get, he's got to keep it. No refund at all. وَإِنْ شَاءَ, and if he wants رَدَّهُ, he can give it fully back and get a full refund. So إِنْ شَاءَ رَدَّهُ means he gives the washing machine back and he gets his money back. But no partial refund. لَيْسَ لَهُ, it's not permissible for the buyer أَنْ يُمْسِكَهُ, to hold the item, to keep the washing machine. يُمْسِكَهُ, أَمْسَكَ يُمْسِكُ, وَيَأْخُذْ النُّقْصَانِ, and for him to take the deficiency, meaning to take a partial refund. So you can't say to the guy, you know what, this washing machine, I love this washing machine, please, you know what, it's got this fault in there, but just give me back £100 and we'll call it even, we'll call it quits. No, he can't do that. Right? That's something that he cannot do. Now, if he does attempt to do something like this, like if he does attempt to reduce the price, that's another matter, that is what happens over there. But based on the same contract, this exact contract, the £500 contract, he can't get a refund on that. Right? He's not allowed to get a refund. Okay, so that's the first masala. So if you ever buy an item and you ever find a defect in there, then you have the opportunity to get a full refund if you like, or if you don't want that, then you have to keep the item for the full price, and end of story. Right. What is considered to be an ayb? So this is the rule. كل ما أوجب نقصان الثمن في عادة التجار فهو عيب. This is the definition of ayb. Right. Anything which necessitates nuqsan, the decrease of value, meaning anything that will reduce the value, في عادة التجار, in the norm of the businessmen of your time, فهو عيب, then legally this will be counted as being a defect. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. For instance, let's say you had a laptop. What is normally considered to be something that will reduce the price of a laptop? Right, so this is one of those fat old laptops. What will reduce the price? So let's say this laptop costs, I don't know, £500 again, right? What kind of things would, so cracking the screen, okay, that would reduce the price. Missing keys, that would reduce the price. Overheating, that will reduce the price. Software problems, that will reduce the price. Anything that was going to reduce the price in the markets, anything that if you knew that from before the price would have been reduced, then this is considered to be an ayb. But let's say something like, for example, I don't know, dust on the screen. Yeah, so dust on the screen, that is not considered to be an ayb because that does not reduce the value of the item. Right. So if I ask you a question, if I said to you, you tell me according to Islam, what is considered to be an ayb, a defect in a product? So you say anything that in the markets, if they heard about this, they would consider the price to be decreased, lowered. That would be an ayb. So he gives a few examples of the olden days. In the olden days, some examples of aybs. All right. So here are some examples of aybs. So for example, he says, wal ibaqu, runaway slave, wal bawlu, and urinating, fil firashi, in bed, and sarakatu are all considered to be aybs. Right? These are three aybs that he brings, which are based upon the olden days. So let's say, for instance, you had a slave, and this slave is a minor, right? Is under the age of puberty. Let's say the slave is, I don't know, 9 years old, a 9-year-old slave. And so the buyer actually buys the slave on Monday. Right, so Monday he buys the slave, and then on Friday he finds out that he wees in his bed. You know what wee means, urinates in his bed. Now, if he can prove, so he's urinated, right? If this buyer can prove that this was a fault that actually existed before Monday, he also used to do this before Monday. So let's put U for urine, and then he's also U for urine. So because you've got two, we would say this is considered to be defect. And the same goes for runaway, for example. So let's say this is a slave and he ran away, so R for runaway, and it's also proven that he also ran away before Monday as well. That means this is considered to be a defect. It's going to reduce the price because which customer wants to buy something that's going to cause him headache? All right, so this is causing headache, right? No. So, and theft as well. So theft, let's put, for example, TH for theft. He stole on Friday, and it's also proven that he also stole before Monday, right? So all these are considered to be aybs as long as it can be proven that they also existed before sale day. Right, before sale day. Does that make sense? Right, so I think it's quite straightforward. So he said, wal ibaqu wal bawlu, runaway, urinating in the bed, and saraqa, theft, are all considered to be aib in a minor child. Ma lam yablugh, so long as the child has not reached puberty. If the child reaches puberty, let's say, for example, the child, now obviously this is going to be a bit of a strange one, right? It's a bit of a strange one. So let's say the child, when he bought the child, he was 9 years old. And then many months later, the child reached the age of puberty, or years later, and now he's, let's say, 15 years old. Okay, now he's 15 years old. And he does those things. He does those things after puberty, right? So for example, he does theft. Let's say he does theft. So it's proven he did theft before. He does urinating in the bed, right? And then he did that when he was young, and he ran away there, and before puberty he ran away. This will not be considered to be the same reason. So running away as a child is different from running away as an adult. And, the theft as a child is different from an adult. Children, when they steal, they're not really kind of stealing because they want to become gang members or something. And urinating in a bed for a child is like a normal thing, really. But as an adult, then obviously it'll be different. It won't be the same cause. So we want to look for, as long as it's the same cause, then we'll say it's the same problem. And it's not the same cause, then we're going to say, no, these are two totally different causes. Okay, so that's why he says, فَإِذَا بَلَغَ فَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِعَيْبٍ. When he reaches puberty and he does that, that will not be counted as an aib حتى until you awidahu, until he does it continuously بعد البلوغ. Yeah, until he does it, repeats it multiple times after bulugh. Then we're going to say, right, after the age of puberty, he's doing these things regularly, stealing regularly, or urinating regularly, or running away regularly. Then we say that's an aib, right? And that would have reduced the value, so he can give it back. Okay, let's look at some other sort of things that will also be counted as being aibs as well. What other things are counted as being aibs? So he says, wal bakhru wa dafru. So bakhar, and some versions say dhafar with a dhal. Okay, it's roughly the same meaning. Bakhar, armpit smell, and bad odor, is considered to be aib in a jariyah. So let's say there's a slave woman. What does a master normally get a slave woman for? Slave woman is normally bought for intimate things, right? Intimacy and being at home and playful and all of those things. So that's why bad breath, yeah. So I don't know how to draw bad breath. It's supposed to be like bad breath. And armpit odor, yeah. So supposed to be armpit odor there. So breath and armpit odor, this will be considered to be a defect in them. This is if it's like not natural, like if it's really bad, very, very bad breath. All of us have bad breath and we clean our teeth and it becomes good. But if it gets regular to a point that they're always getting this bad armpit smell or breath smell, then it's going to be considered a problem. Yeah, so al-bakhru wa-dafru aibun fil jariyah. This is only in a slave woman. وَلَيْسَ بِعَيْبٍ فِي الْغُلَامِ إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ مِنْ دَاءٍ. And it's not considered to be a defect in a male. Right? So in a male, having bad armpit smell and having bad breath smell is not considered to be an aib. Not. Right? It's not. Unless it's due to an illness. Yeah, so unless da, and da means illness. If it's because of an illness, then obviously that's something really bad. It's going to affect the value. So laysa bi'aybin, he says, it's not considered to be an aib fil ghulami, in a male, illa an yakuna min da, unless it's due to an illness. Okay, next. Another fun. Remember, all of these examples are examples we don't really see in our days today, right? So we're not really kind of familiar with these kind of things. This is in the past. So he gives some more examples and he says, all right, what about something like someone who fornicates, right? So fornication. Okay, supposed to say fornication. Yeah, zina. So he says, fornication and a child. Let's say, for example, there is a slave woman, and this slave woman fornicates. Or let's say, for example, like there is a girl, she's a child of fornication, born out of wedlock. Yeah, born out of wedlock. Okay. BOW, born out of wedlock. So this would be considered to be a defect in females. Right? So female, this is a defect. Why? Because remember we said the master wants to buy them for intimacy. They're going to be for intimacy. And a lot of people get put off when they find out that the slave woman regularly gets involved in fornication, or this slave girl was born out of fornication. These are kind of things that put people off. So therefore, there's not going to be a market for them. So this is going to reduce the price. All right. So just keep that in mind. Reduction of price. And if you're in a society where they don't care about this, it doesn't really matter, then it's fine. Then it won't be considered to be a defect. So a zina, fornication, and waladu zina, and a child that's born out of wedlock, or a slave that's born out of wedlock, is a aib fil jariya, in a slave woman, dun al ghulam, not in a male. So this only applies to females, does not apply to males. Okay, that's masla done. Now, next masla. Okay, next masla, let me explain like this. There's 3 parts to this masla. Okay, wrote that up there. 3 parts to this masla. If, for example, like let's say, scenario number 1. Let's say this guy, this is the seller, and this seller, let's say he sells some, supposed to be cloth. Right, this is cloth. He sells cloth to him. And this guy, he obviously, because he's a good guy, he pays him the money. So let's say he bought the cloth for £100 and he sold it to him. So what happens is, this contract happened on Monday. Okay. And he found the fault on Friday. If he buys a cloth and he finds a fault in there, what happens? He gets full refund. Okay, full refund. However, let's say, for instance, so let's get rid of full refund here. Let's say he actually cuts the cloth. So the buyer, on Wednesday, he thought the cloth was fine, so he gave it to the tailor. The tailor cut the cloth. This cutting now has developed a defect in the cloth now. The cloth has become defected with a new cut. Then on Friday, he finds out that the cloth actually had a fault in it. Yeah, that was there from before Monday. So it's got 2 faults in there now. One fault is the cut and one is from before. So we can call this one, let's call this number 1, and let's call this number 2. So there's two defects in there. So what happens in this case? In this case, this guy can only get number 1 is partial refund. So he gets how does he get partial refund? Well, he works out what the value of the cloth would be without that defect, and he reduces it from the price, gets his refund, partial refund. Let's say he finds out this is worth £10, so he minuses £10, gets £10 refund. This is a defect, right? He hasn't added anything to the cloth. He has simply just cut it. This is scenario number 1. Okay, scenario number 2. Let's say the guy not only cut, but also, and he sewed it together. Yeah, so cut and he sewed it together. So to cut it and to sew it. So what happens? So in this case, this sewing is actually extra thread, which is his property. So new property has now been, new mal has now been added to the cloth. The previous one was simply just a cut. This is now a cut and some new mal thread. Now this, there's a difference now. Now let's go back to the first one. In the first one, if the guy said, you know what, I'll give you a full refund. Full refund. That's also allowed as well. So if the seller is happy to give a full refund, that's also permissible. So he can get a partial refund, number 1, or number 2, he gets a full refund. But in the second scenario, second one, he can only get a partial refund. Only partial refund. In the second scenario, only partial. He can't get a full refund, no. Full refund, not allowed. Why? Because there's this extra thread has been added into it. So if he was to get his cloth back, he's getting some extra mal in there, which is not allowed. This extra mal is not allowed, right? And this applies to other things as well. So they give the example of, let's say, for example, like a drink. Yeah, so this guy sells him, I don't know, wheat this guy takes the wheat and he makes a drink from it. So he puts the wheat in a cup and then he adds butter to it and he makes this nice dessert. So what happens in this case is, well, actually I should have done this here. He makes a dessert from it. So he's added some mal to it. He's added some extra butter or honey or whatever you like adding to it, you can add to it. So now the wheat has been mixed with butter. They can't be separated. So therefore he only deserves a partial refund now. This is the only way he gets a partial refund. Okay. Right. So let's go back to this then. So look. إذا حدث عند المشتري عيب. When an عيب occurs with the mushtari, like on Wednesday he cut it. ثم اطلع على عيب, and then on Friday he becomes aware of a past عيب that was there from before Monday. كان عند البائع, that was from the seller, with the seller before Monday. فله أن يرجع بنقصان العيب. Then he has the right, this buyer has the right to get partial refund, like we said. ولا يرد المبيع, he does not give back the item إلا unless أن يرضى البائع أن يأخذه بعيبه, that the seller, he's happy to take it back with its aib, right? So that, and I called it full refund. Okay, scenario number 2 now. إن قطع المشتري ثوب وخاته, if he was to cut the cloth and he was to sew the cloth, خات يخيط أو صبغه, or this scenario I didn't mention, if it's a cloth and he dyed it, so he's added some extra mal to it, which is color. أو لت السويق, or he mixed the wheat drink, yeah, like I gave the example over here. بسمن, with butter. ثم اطلع على عيب, and then on Friday he becomes aware of the عيب. رجع بنقصانه, he can get back nuqsan, meaning he can get back partial refund. وليس للبائع, but it's not allowed for the buyer, for the seller, أن يأخذه بعينه, to take the item back itself. He can't do that. And that's it. Right, so next week inshallah we will talk more about this. So I just thought, I was thinking do all of this, but then when I saw how long it's going to take, then I thought, it's going to be too long and it's going to kind of not be beneficial inshallah. So anyway, let's have a look at some questions I can ask you guys. Right, so first of all, what is Khiyar Ayb? What is it? So Khiyar Ayb is the option where a person has the right to give back the item or get a refund somehow, right, when he finds a defect in there. What is a defect? A defect is something which the sellers, the market, considers it to be something where the price will be dropped because of it. Okay, when a person becomes aware of a fault, what choices does he have? So he has the right to get back a refund. It might be full refund or a partial refund. But he can't get a partial refund just like that. It just depends upon the situation. Okay, give me some examples of slaves and their defects. So some of the examples are like in a minor, urinating, running away, and theft. If they repeat that a second time, once before buying and once after, then that's considered an Ayb, liable to give it back. What if they do that after they become adults? Then that won't be considered an Ayb because the cause is different in children and adults. Only time it's going to be considered an Ayb in an adult if it's something which it repeats multiple times. Okay, what about bad odor coming from a slave? So if it's in a slave woman, that's reasonable to give it back, right? Give it back. And if it's found in a slave, then it's not really considered to be a problem unless it's due to an illness, then the value drops. What about slaves, women that are known for fornication or that are born out of wedlock? This is something, unfortunately, in the markets, the value drops in them days. And so it's an Ayb. And in a male slave, it won't be considered to be an Ayb. Okay, what about if a person finds a defect after they've created their own defect? So if they find a defect after they create their own defect, then they can get a full refund, right? Full refund. Sorry, they can get a partial refund, not full refund, partial refund. And if the seller wants, he can take it back and give them a full refund. Okay, what if they've developed their own Ayb inside of the item? Or if they created their own Ayb inside of it? If they create their own Ayb, then they can only get a partial refund, not a full refund, because they've added their own mal to it, right? They've added their own mal and that's it. Alright guys, Jazakumullah khair. I hope you guys benefit from this video, enjoyed this lesson. I really enjoyed this lesson. In fact, I actually enjoyed this a lot. Okay, not a lot, but a lot. Done. Anyway, if any of you guys have any questions, please put the question in the comments below, suggestions that you might have. And also, thank you to all my beautiful patrons who help my channel grow. You guys are the ones who support my channel on a monthly basis, donations. If any of you guys want to become donors towards the channel and you want to gain some sort of a sadaqah jariyah through this, everyone who benefits from these videos, you're going to get a reward, inshallah. Then please check out the description below. It means a lot to me because it helps my channel to grow and I can dedicate more time to it. And that's it, guys. So I will see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.